Welcome back to the J&Z podcast. Today we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now we've had a little bit of time to think it over, kind of get our thoughts together for this movie, and I must say I have I have a lot of respect for it because it's actually just a breath of fresh air with the MCU and how nice it is compared to the other stuff they've been putting it out. But at the same time, it makes me feel a little sad because I'm afraid we won't get movies like this too much from here on out. So
I don't know.
that's
We'll
kind of
we'll
my
see.
thought.
We'll have to see. They could get their movies back on track. We'll have to see.
Yeah, you never know. But this movie in general, though, I thought it was a great movie. I thought there's a lot to like. It really reminded me of pre-Endgame, just fun Marvel movies. And in an age where all the Marvel movies are just kind of very samey feeling, this one especially is able to get away with it because that's pretty much what they were, was a goofy, fun story for the most part. And I think they did it well. I think they did the jokes well. It was just fun all around.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think this is the best movie since Endgame, and you don't have to question yourself. You don't have to, walking out of the theater. I went and saw it twice, actually. And walking out both times, I didn't once, kind of say, well, they could have done this better, that better. I didn't like the way they handled this character. There was none of that walking out of it both times. I have one complaint, and it was only because, for instance, Rocket is uh, out of the movie for the most part, but he has the flashbacks as well as most of the story is all about him. So while he's incapacitated for the most part during the movie, he's still in the movie for the majority of it. But what I wanted them to do was a Yondu moment for him, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 Yondu. So Rocket comes back to life, he sees Lila and they bring him back. He
Hmm.
should have had like a big blaster or something like that, and maybe in that hallway scene, I know the hallway scene is amazing, but maybe instead of that, like he just takes out the biggest gun and just blasts it. Or maybe he's the only one that takes on the high evolutionary. I don't know.
Mm.
There just needed like it just seemed like you needed that one singular Yandu moment for Rocket. And I mean, I understand like throughout the entire movie, he's got like the really cool action. He's got the nice end when he saves the baby raccoons, and he has the flashbacks. So he's in it for the majority, but it just kind of felt like you needed that one giant moment for him as well.
I don't know. I felt it was fine. I felt the backstories kind of made up for that. Like
Mm-hmm.
they were probably the most impactful of pretty much any that we've seen in the MCU in recent memory. There's a couple maybe, but I don't know. But even if it didn't quite have a Yondu moment, at least it had yet another Beastie Boys moment.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah, this better be the last one. But
So
they made the most use of that song.
so
I'll
that
tell you what.
I started laughing so hard during that moment, and it was just because we saw two Chris Pratt movies in the span of 2 months that both had Beastie Boys in it, and one of them was the Super Mario Brothers movie, and the other
They,
one's Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah, and it's the same song too. It's hilarious.
It worked though. I mean, I have no complaints about it.
Now that was my favorite implementation of it. It's still just really funny to see. I don't know how they managed to. I seriously don't know. I've never seen a Beastie Boys song in a movie before this, but now there's like three movies at the same time that use the same song.
I know it's kind of
It's
funny.
just so funny.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, like, and that's a small complaint I have, and it's not really necessarily a complaint. It's more so like
No, it's just funny.
a suggestion. No, 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 not about the Beastie Boys, about Rocket.
Oh,
um just like it was a small like suggestion that they could have had like that one moment for Rocket, but other than that, I thought they handled everything with Rocket very well, from his backstory to um how he interacted with the characters, when he's brought back and everyone, they're really excited that he's back and they're hugging him or they're telling him that they love him. Everything was handled with really, really great care, in my opinion.
Yeah. As far as Rocket's whole flashback, right? Overall, very touching. You could almost kind of feel it happening. I felt it provided great context for it. There was the CGI animals, and it's kind of unavoidable. But I still feel like there is still a bit of a disconnect no matter what they did. It didn't quite seem real enough, you know? Like there's nothing they could have done better about it, but
What do you mean?
the animals were just weird. And I know why they were.
Like you just don't feel a connection to those animals, or
No, I felt a connection to them even. They just didn't seem lifelike though.
what do you mean, like the CGI or the
The CGI.
character?
And there's nothing you can
Oh,
do
I
about it. But
disagree.
it
The
still just
CGI was
taught
fantastic.
for Rocket it works. It really does.
No, I
But
thought for everybody, like I thought for Groot, I thought for Cosmo especially, like Cosmo's all CGI. Um and I thought like all of Rocket's friends, they were I
no,
mean,
I'm literally saying only Rocket's friends. Everybody else looked fine. Even Rocket himself looked fine. It was just they're all talking animals. It
well,
just was a little too much to suspend disbelief at times.
I, I got to disagree with you. I really do. I think the
I don't know.
CGI on all of Rocket's friends was really good. The walrus, the rabbit, and also the um oh geez, the otter.
Yeah. And I think another part of it was the dialogue. I didn't feel like it was very normal sounding. I know they're all trapped in a cage, but throughout the whole movie, you know exactly what's going on, and they don't really they don't have anything else going on besides looking for like the promised land and then waiting on it and then just being in a cage. I know it sounds kind of weird,
Yeah, I guess I'm
but
not
that's
getting what
all
you're
it
saying. Because as in terms of it being cliche, like is that what you're saying?
the dialogue was all very cliche. Like the entire every time they
I mean, I
spoke,
do.
like the cutesy little rabbit and everything, it's just all leading up to full well what's going to happen.
I
There was never
guess I didn't really see it coming. Like, I mean, I guess I thought, yeah, sure, his friends are gonna die. I didn't think the otter would die because in the comic books, uh, forget her name, Lila. Lila was Rocket's girlfriend in some interpretations of the comics. This one it wasn't, but I thought, yeah, sure, maybe the rabbit and the walrus should die, but not the otter. So when she got shot, that surprised me. And then the way that the other two got shot, that surprised me even more because you don't see it until all of a sudden the camera zooms back around and you see him, dead on the floor. That got me.
that was fine. That was great even.
Well, then what's your complaints?
It's just watching the CGI animals talk to each other like really up close in their face.
So your
It's just
problem is that
it
you can't suspend disbelief of talking animals when Rocket Raccoon has been talking this whole time and
but he's
we're
talking
talking about a
cuz he
series with a
blends in
purple alien?
super well. Yes. Literally, it's just
That's
different.
your fault, man. That's
And
not
in the entire
anyone
time I'm
else's.
thinking it's like these are just Sid's toys from Toy Story talking to me.
Oh,
Like that's
jeez.
immediately what I thought of.
You start comparing this to Cars 2, we're going to have an issue.
No, I this is a much better movie I'm comparing it to.
Hmm.
But it does give that thing where it's like, "Oh, wow, this is really creepy and messed up."
Yeah, like that's the feeling that it's supposed to provoke.
I don't know, it
It's
was just really
creepy and it's
weird.
messed
It's
up.
just an uncanny valley. I just didn't quite believe all there's just something in my mind I just could not 100% get behind that they were like legit people instead of just animals cuz they were not very smart.
Well, that's the point. They
Right.
were dumb animals turned into and experimented on to become more smarter. And that's how when Rocket found out about making the weird animal human hybrids to, without having to dissect them and stuff like that and make them super weird.
I know. It's just
Did you
it.
miss the point of the whole movie?
No, I understood everything about it. I'm literally just saying the way they kind of acted and were designed.
Okay.
It just was in that uncanny valley that it just made me question. Just in the back of my mind, it just didn't quite put me right there.
Okay.
If it's an actual like scene where it's like, oh, I got shot, all this stuff between like two human beings, that's a lot more believable. But when it's just like this otter talking to this raccoon, it quite truly, but they're like really realistic, but they talk kind of funny. It's
Yeah,
not like the whole rest of the
I'm
movie's
sorry,
that.
man. I don't get what you're like saying.
It's just simply like for instance something like Zootopia. It would probably work better because literally the entire movie is talking animals, like every character is. But Rocket was already kind of outside the norm of the universe, and all of his friends definitely were even less believable. And we can get past this.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
I'm so
Is for me personally.
confused. You can't just get past that the animals talk, man. That's just weird. All right.
On
Uh,
a more positive note, or a negative note on that matter, but I did feel the death part was pretty impactful
which one?
when all the animals died.
Well, yeah.
That part was impactful. That was still kind of sad,
So you can't
and just
suspend disbelief for the animals talking,
I
but you
did
can
at that
sure feel
point.
for when
You
they
mean when
die.
the humans started showing up? Yes, I was able to believe it a lot more for some reason. I don't know.
Did you find that the movie was funny at least?
Yes, the whole movie actually was hilarious. Maybe not as funny as that joke, but they came pretty close. Like it's actually a quippy Marvel movie that's not just kind of lame.
One thing that I liked about this one is usually with the first two Guardians movies where they have like the big moment where all of a sudden, maybe something amazing happens or something emotional happens, but then it's sort of um pushed to the side real quickly with a joke. And that's only with the Guardians movies. And it's not that big of a deal to me. I'm not saying it ruins them or whatever, but this movie I felt didn't do that. Like when it told a joke, it was appropriate, and when it was emotional, it didn't all of a sudden, say like all of a sudden, Rocket comes back to life and stuff like this. He was talking to Lila and all that other stuff, and uh, it's not like all of a sudden he wakes up and Peter's like, "Oh, glad to see you back, man." They have that emotional moment where him and Groot hug, and it never undercuts those moments, and that's what I really liked.
I don't know. Is there any examples you can think of them doing that? Because the only other time I remember is in like the second one when he reveals that he gave his mom cancer.
Hmm.
Like that was not taken for laughs either.
There's a
Uh,
ton of moments I could probably not name, but I know like it just felt like this one didn't do it as much.
no, in fact, some things were a little strange. Also, like in the beginning of the movie, like the first 2 minutes
Okay, so
were
I can
not.
actually explain those first 2 minutes and why they were a little weird because all of my friends and even my dad that went with me the first time, those first 2 minutes before Adam Warlock come in are
Yeah,
so disconnected from the main movie. And it's because did you watch the holiday special?
no.
Okay, so that's the reason. James Gunn shot the holiday special and also Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 back to back. So part of that reason that those first 2 minutes seem so disconnected from Guardians 3 is because it feels like footage that is taken from that holiday special. The holiday special is all right. It wasn't anything amazing, but I think what he did was he took some footage from that he shot and put it into Guardians 3 so that if someone was to watch like on Disney Plus, let's say, holiday
Hmm.
special, then Guardians 3, it would kind of like blend into each other.
Yeah, and I get that. It's just not like a super great reason because it kind of makes you wonder, like, oh, this is kind of weird, and then
Yeah.
it just ends, and then you're like, okay.
Once Adam Warlock comes in, that's when immediately I knew that the movie was going to be good.
Yeah.
It was just those first 2 minutes I was a little scared because it's like, all right, they're playing up some jokes and they're not really landing, and some of
Mm-hmm.
the some of the things they're saying are kind of off. And then once Adam Warlock came in and he does like the weird, uh, it just shows his face zooming in towards the camera. I knew instantly it was gonna be good.
Yeah, I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't tell you what was going to happen throughout the whole movie.
Well, I didn't know
Quite
what was
truly.
gonna happen either. I just knew that I liked that once Adam Warlock came in, that's when the movie really ramped up and started being exciting, and you knew where the movie was going to take place and where it was going.
Yeah, yeah. I I
Did you not like
still
this movie, Jace? I'm really confused because like half the time you're saying it's bad.
no, no, literally just I'm not even kidding. It's so minuscule, but I just all the talking animals were a hard sell. Everything else was just fine. Literally just that one part.
The talking animals brought the movie down for you.
Yes.
Oh my goodness,
Not the
Jace.
flying through space. That was just fine.
What
Not the
about the
gold people.
weird animal humans?
You don't think those Yeah, yeah, you got a good point. But they were supposed to be kind of weird. They were not played for seriousness
So
at
you can
all.
take those serious, but not.
They're not. No, I didn't take them serious. You're not supposed to. They're literally just supposed to be like, what's going on? Earth 2 about with animal people, and they didn't take it serious. Nobody did, and that was the whole point. It's just kind of supposed to be kind of weird,
Okay.
and that was it.
Yeah, I guess.
Rocket's never taken seriously ever, besides those flashbacks in the whole series. Like quite literally, almost never. So it never was
No,
an
Rocket's
issue.
taken very serious throughout the series. Like he's a jokester, but there's little moments that you can take serious. For instance,
Yeah,
in the
little
first,
moments, but the entire backstory, which probably was 15, 20 minutes of the movie, was just I don't want
I
to get back
guess.
into it. I'm literally just saying
I'm
that's
just
it.
I'm scared that you can't take the talking animals serious.
I can't.
Oh man,
I could
that's just
I
weird,
can.
Jace. I'm sorry.
They weren't human enough,
All
and
right.
that's probably why they died.
All right, let's talk about that one shot take at least, because holy moly,
That
that
was great.
was one of the best action scenes in MCU history.
Yeah,
Because
there's only
it starts and it just keeps going and going and going. Everyone gets like 2 minutes of screen time in that shot. It's like a what, like 7 minutes?
it's not. It's probably a minute and a half at most.
I don't know. It felt like 7 minutes. It
But
just
I
keeps
don't even know if
going.
it's a minute. But it was. But for a choreographed action fight sequence of that caliber and that quality, a minute to a minute and a half is super long. Normally they're like 10, 30 seconds maximum,
Yeah.
and they're just okay.
Those are the best fight scenes when you can get your characters into a claustrophobic area. Take Winter Soldier with the elevator fight, or
Yeah,
Rogue
that was fun,
One
yes.
with Darth Vader in the hallway, or Clone Wars when Darth Maul is in the hallway, or Luke Skywalker in the hallway and Mandalorian. You take a group of characters or one character that can just kick butt, and you put him in a closeted area. Those end up being the best fight scenes possible, and I don't know why, but every single time they just end up being the best.
No, you're right, you're right. And the best thing about this one that the others didn't even have to consider was they literally made everybody work together. It was actually just they were all it felt like an actual team at that point.
Hmm. Yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy, all three of them tell like a really interesting story. Like the first one is about selfish people doing a selfless act, I guess, or selfish people coming together. I'm not really quite sure about that first
I
movie.
don't barely remember the first one either. I just remember liking it.
And then the second movie is about those teammates becoming more of a family. And then
Mm-hmm.
this one is really selling that doing a selfless act for someone, like Rocket, throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, they all kind of have to do with like found family kind of deal. The
Hmm.
second one probably the most, but also this one. Like this one just really goes deeper into Rocket as an actual person and what and it's nice that they kind of hint at it in the other movies that there's something weird with his backstory and we finally get to see it.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed the backstory. I thought um, it was brutal and it needed to be because you want to care about these characters, or I should say, we already care about these characters. So to see a character that everybody loves to be seen put through some really bad situations, that affects everybody, no matter who you are.
Right. I agree. I definitely agree.
So
Um
I love that it was brutal, and I loved the main villain, whoever that actor is. I don't know who he was, but man, every time he was on screen, he brought his A game to it. When he was yelling at Rocket at the end and like spits coming out of his mouth, that was really
yeah.
good. When Rocket's crying and he's going, "Oh, boo hoo," and he's uh or when like Rocket's scratching his face and ripping it up and he's screaming, like that is really really well done.
Yeah, he's a not only well acted, he's just well written. Just having a villain that's just evil, he just goes from instantly like very nice to
Hmm.
just snapping on an instant. You never know what's going to happen next with him or what he's going to do.
Yeah, I've really missed the villains for the sake of villains. I know a lot of people don't like, Iron Man 2, for instance, because Whiplash, but I truly miss simple villains for the sake of being a villain or hating the main character. I miss that. Every single Phase 4 movie or uh, once Thanos came about, it seemed like every single villain had to be this twisted soul or uh, empathetic person that you can get behind their goal in life. And that's fine for like one or two movies or three movies, but not every single project. That gets very old very fast.
Yeah, it gets super old. Like every single Iron Man villain was just I never had hardly any complaints about them and they were all just pretty evil.
Yeah.
The the Mandarin was just evil. The first guy, the first villain is actually probably really well rounded. It doesn't. It's not a great reason, but it's a decent reason
Hmm.
for why he's doing what he's doing. He wants to. He's a weapon. It's a weapons company, Tony. We sell weapons. Like, come on, get with the program. Like, that's not bad at all. And he just really likes. And this guy just really likes. He's just chasing perfection, and that's a good enough reason for me. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to get there. He does not care.
Yeah. No,
And for a person like Rocket, that's a pretty good reason for him to not be super trusting of people and not always get along because of what happened to him because of that man. It makes perfect sense.
hmm no, I thought with this movie they handled everything in such a nice way, and even things that I'm kind of sad about, like Gamora not being a part of the team anymore. She still was throughout the story, and at the end of the day, she still like had her little group of friends. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like she was a complete evil person. She just had a different way of going about things.
No,
Um,
that really was just about as good as you could expect from the whole Gamora thing. They could have, they literally reset her, It could have gone anywhere from there. They
yeah,
could have done anything with her.
I actually
And
would have been fine if they didn't include Gamora at all. It just like if they just said, "Hey, she's done." I would have been
I
fine
don't
with that.
I'm not mad that they included her. It was funny kind of watching, Peter
Hmm.
just get lost in his train of thought and just keep going and going about it when he really shouldn't. That was funny. I liked how she slowly warmed up to them over the course of the movie. And she slowly began to understand Groot. Like eventually at one point she went from was like, how do you know what he's saying? She just like without even realizing it just started understanding him.
Hmm.
And even if she turned her back on him, but she just went with the Ravagers at the end, it still didn't feel like a cop out. It felt like that was her decision and it's just the way it is now. But it didn't feel like she was a jerk to them either way. Even in the beginning, sure, but like that's the whole point. She had character progression.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, everything was handled very well, and even people that don't necessarily have like the best character, like uh let's see. Let's take Mantis for instance. Mantis was kind of an okay character throughout the series. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, she was just there as Ego's servant. Same thing with the holiday special and all the Avengers movies. She just was kind of there as to label out the cast and make it more
I don't
stacked.
know. I always found her pretty funny. It is hard for her to stack up, at Endgame or whatever,
No,
but
no, she's funny. She's funny. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, as a character, could you really tell anything about herself in those movies? No.
yes.
In the third movie, though, this one, you get to know her a little more. She has that big fight with Nebula and Drax. That was a really well done scene, I thought, where they're arguing back and forth about Drax and, you know, Mantis's actor's giving it all, and uh, Karen Gillan as Nebula, she's giving it all her all back, and Drax is just in the middle. Like that just is really good character progression, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. They somehow I've always liked Guardians. It's probably held up as the best trilogy that they've
Mm.
made so far. I'd argue, and it actually feels the most like a trilogy from them.
That would be hard for me to say because you have Iron Man trilogy first of all.
It's better than the Iron Man trilogy. The three the movies are. It's better than the three Captain America movies.
Oh, hold on
Not
there.
that they're bad. They are good. Winter
No,
Soldier.
Captain America, that would be a hard one. It's either Guardians of the Galaxy or Captain America. The
I'm
three
only giving
Captain
it to
America movies.
Guardians because while there's a couple Captain America movies that I like more than some Guardian movies, the first one's fine.
I don't
It's
know. I
it's
love my
about
World War II movies. The first Captain America was so well done. That was exactly what I wanted.
it is,
And
but it
then
doesn't. The whole thing doesn't feel like a trilogy.
Winter Soldier, that is the best MCU movie in my opinion. From its action to its story, that was the best done MCU movie in my opinion. The Winter Soldier, and then Civil War was just a big Avengers movie basically. So I'd have to
Yeah,
think
but
about
they're
that.
so different from each other.
No, and I know they're different, but to say that
Guardians has always
Guardians is
been
the best
what you'd expect,
trilogy, I would have to really think about that.
and we all know it's better than the Thor trilogy.
I don't know. Thor gets way too much hate. I think this is the best done MCU movie in a long time. I hope that Disney can look at it as a way to maybe fix some of their upcoming releases, like the Marvels. There's no saving that movie. That movie's gonna bomb, and there's nothing they can do to edit it anymore. It's done. But as in terms of their next few upcoming movies, like from next year onward, I hope they can look at this and just kind of say, like, hey, people liked this kind of a story being told, or they enjoyed the characters in this movie. Why did they enjoy it so much? So I hope that they can just kind of look at this and kind of say, like, let's kind of tweak a little bit going forward.
I think I know now why the Guardians movies are so well done, and it really comes down to the characters. None of the characters are annoying, and all of them are super different but likable, but at the same time, they're not perfect. They kind of are not super nice to each other sometimes. They have arguments, but at the end of the day, you can tell they care for each other. They're just kind of joking around sometimes. They feel like actual people, whereas in other Marvel movies, they can sometimes just take it way too seriously, and the characters can be just, it's almost too serious. Iron Man's a great franchise, takes and it's a more serious one. There's not much Iron Man himself isn't too serious, but it's just compared to anything else. But
They
maybe
just
that's a
have to
bad example.
No, no, no. I completely agree. They just have to look at their characters, see how to improve them, and make sure your story is really good. You can have a simple story, like look at Guardians 3. Guardians 3, what's the fundamental of it? What's the basic story of this movie? It's a rescue
Yeah, they're
mission.
just trying to save his friend.
Yeah, it's a simple rescue mission storyline, but it's well executed. So Marvel can have simple stories going forward. That's not a problem. Just has to be well executed with good characters, likable characters.
Yes, likable. They don't have to be perfect. They shouldn't be perfect. And they don't all have to be the same, is not what I'm saying. But just having a group of people that are all like, just even if they're a jerk or if they're super nice, it doesn't matter. They all, I don't hate any of the characters. I like all of them for super different reasons. And they're able to be funny and joke with each other and get mad at each other without feeling like it doesn't feel like they're just making it up as they go. They feel like real people having real problems with each other. Whereas some of the other movies, that things can just feel contrived. Things are just misunderstandings for the sake of
Yeah, terrible writing.
misunderstandings and plot.
We'll have to see because, the writer's strike's going on right now, so we'll have to see how that affects any movies going forward, but hopefully it does. But James Gunn, man, he always does a good movie.
Yeah, is that his last Marvel movie before he switches over to DC completely?
Yes, but this is his last Marvel movie before DC. But as far as him coming back to do a Marvel movie, he's never ruled it out. He hasn't said completely, I'm never directing a Marvel movie again. So he could come back and do a Guardians movie. He could come back and do some other wacky team that we don't know, like the Great Lakes Avengers or something like that. Um,
Hmm.
but right now he's going to be doing DC going forward, which I am ecstatic for. If this is the kind of quality we can expect from Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, I'm all for it. I will jump ship immediately if we're going to get so much better content on DC's side of things than Marvel.
Yeah, we'll see with DC.
You can do really good, like DC, they've got their flagship characters, their most important characters, the Justice League, obviously. You just got to do them correctly. You can't be doing a Zack Snyder where you make everyone dark and brooding and stupid. You can't do that with Superman. You can't do that with Batman all the time. And luckily, we're getting, Robert Pattinson's Batman 2 and 3 and, the Penguin TV series. And I think there's like
Hmm.
a Gotham TV show also being made. So luckily, we're going to get a lot of DC content. It just remains to be seen of James Gunn's DC movies, but he has to knock it out of the park. If Superman Legacy comes out, which is his first movie, and he's the one that's directing it, if that comes out and it's trash, that's going to bring the entire plan of his down the drain.
Yeah.
It has to come out swinging like Iron Man did. Even if it's just okay, but it's still like a good, like you can look at it and say, yeah, that was Superman. That will still be just good enough
Hmm.
because it can't be worse than Man of Steel.
Yeah, I don't know. My only thing is DC has been going through a bit of a tough time, and it's not even their fault.
Well, he has
Like,
to wait till all the movies are out. So he had to wait for Black Adam, Shazam 2, which just came out. He's got to wait for Aquaman to come out. He's got to wait for The Flash to come out. And he's also got to wait for, the Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker 2. He's got to wait for Joker 2 as well.
dang. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know how people are going to receive Aquaman 2 and The Flash just out of principle.
Flash, I'm excited for, but only for Michael Keaton's sake. I'm going to go see that just to see my favorite Batman back. But Aquaman, that's going to bomb really hard. People were walking out of the screenings for it, they
Oh boy.
said. So it's not good.
It's not good. But you know what? I think that does kind of wrap up our thoughts on Guardians. Overall, it's a breath of fresh air. It makes me a little sad to think that like it was such a great reminder of what Marvel movies used to be,
Hmm.
and it gives me a little hope that they can do it again. But on all honesty, as soon as the movie was done, I thought, Well, I guess I'll see my next Marvel movie will probably be the next one the Guardians are in, and that's it.
Yeah, I'll let you know since I mean I've got those free movie tickets basically. If like the Marvels is any good, I will go to that just because I have those. But I don't know. There's not a whole lot that's coming out that I'm excited for. Literally, The Flash is like the only thing I'm remotely excited for. Indiana Jones.